What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr War Games, and as you guys have requested even more Darkworld content, I was asked to bring you a pure version. Now this version does not contain dangers, it does not contain any spice or normal summon, it is all about the Darkworlds themselves. I have added some control cards in here as I was requested to start using stuff like brainwashing and everything else. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. You constantly supporting this type of content means that I will constantly keep doing this type of content, and more than happy to do so as well. So, with all of that out of the way, we're going to dive head first into this profile. Now, this is not the most optimum way to play this deck, in my opinion. I feel that there could be ways to be changed, but with the restriction of making it pure, and by pure I mean literally every single card involved in the main deck, not the extra deck because it doesn't really matter, is all Darkworld orientated or came in the Darkworld structure decks. So, triple Grepher, triple Rainbow, you know, I can just copy and paste this like I've said before, Genters and Snows. All maxed out, these are the cogs that keep everything turning. No matter what variant you are playing, these are what keeps everything moving. Now for this particular variant, I am playing 2 Ceruli, 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 pearl, and 1 original rainbow. I was actually asked to play the original rainbow, so I thought, you know what, why not? Now, the reason behind this is because we are playing 2 Ceruli now, and we are playing 2 Brainwashing, we're going to be able to trigger our effects as if they were our opponent's effects a lot more consistently. So that's where double Ceruli comes into play. Now, obviously, with the original rainbow, you're only going to want to be doing that during your opponent's turn. During your turn, the ones you're going to want to be discarding is stuff like Pearl, Silver, and stuff like, more so Rainbow than anything else. Everything else becomes more aggressive, so your Rainbow becomes more of an aggressor, your Gold is an aggressor for the next turn as well. So it gives you the balance, considering that your Dark Brainwashing is probably going to be used mainly during your opponent's turn, because it is when they activate a monster effect. That's where you're going to get the most value out of your Gold and your original Rainbow. So that's what you've got to keep in mind with that, in order to kind of make the plays move forward, and it's what makes this build different from everything else. Obviously, what makes this build different from everything else, which is a massive weakness in some sense, is that it doesn't have as many cards in order to discard and gain the first effects of the Darkworlds. So in order to do that, we are playing triple Drag Down to the Grave and 1 card Destruction. Now, obviously, with both of these cards, including Darkworld Dealings, you've got to be very, very careful. The difference between what makes Drag Down a little bit better is you see what's in your opponent's hand. So you get hand knowledge, and then you get to choose what you discard. So it means you can avoid them triggering their own effects. It's obviously quite good if they look at your hand as well, but it's very specific, because when they look at your hand, you need to make sure that there is no single card in your hand that they can discard and you won't get an additional advantage off of. You want to make sure that if they discard a card from your hand, you're going to punish them by either summoning the monster on the board as free material or being able to gain an effect, whether it be a search of a rainbow, whether it be a search of a snow. Heck, you could even put Brow in here if you want to, but I've kind of fallen out of love with Brow a little bit right now. Just for the pure fact that the draw one is nice, but I don't think it's as good. Like, your ideal hand, when you're activating something like Drag Down, is you want to have something like a Pearl with a card in Graveyard, Silver, Gold, Ceruli, Snow, and Rainbow. Like, they're the main cards, as they're out focused, that you want to have in your hand. Like, Brow's great, but if I have Brow in my hand when I activate Drag Down, and my options are pretty much, okay, I've got Gold, like, you'd probably cut a Ceruli for it. So you'd go, let's say your hand is Snow, Ceruli, Rainbow, and let's go Silver, right? And then you've got the Brow. Now, your opponent is probably either going to choose the Silver or the Brow. Both of them aren't that great. So what I ideally want to be doing is you want your hand to be something like this, so that they're forceful to use one of those. So I'd rather see more Cerulis, more Rainbows, and more Snows in my hand, so that my opponent discards those. Then for the other cards, we've got the 1 Puppetry with 2 Gates, 2 Ascension, 2 Allure Steel, and 1 Archives. Now, obviously, disclaimer, Allure didn't come in the structure deck, but it's the most generic draw card you could possibly have, and it's probably needed in this build. You can take it out if you want to, but the fact is you have so many targets, so obviously all of these are dark targets, and you do need to be able to try and draw through your deck where it's all possible. Not to mention as well that by adding in Pearl, he's obviously being able to, if he gets discarded by your opponent's card effect, you get to special summon one of your fiend monsters that is banished or in your hand or graveyard. So again, that gives you ways of getting Grepher back after you've used it in graveyard with Ascension and everything else. I still feel Puppetry is kind of a cool card as well, and I like the idea that you can banish from your graveyard, discard fiends, revive banish zones, everything like that, which is why a lore becomes even more important. You could arguably bump up Archives to 2 if you wanted to and you don't want to play a lore, but that's just down to personal preference. Onto the trap cards, we're going to go with triple Skill Drain alongside triple Dynamiscus because it has that discard effect. And then I've got double Brainwashing and 1 Punishment. Now, I don't think Punishment is that good of a card, but I feel that at 1 is kind of okay. It does give you that ability to discard as well, but the whole idea behind these is all of your card effects go off in the grave or the hand. You don't really, well, no hand actually because there's no dangers, but they all go off in the grave, so Skill Drain is an absolute must if you're playing a version like this, because the extra deck doesn't matter. Like I said, the only thing you'll lose under Skill Drain now will be your Fusion Monster, but at that particular point you're like, okay, well, I don't really mind because he's still going to be a boss monster that my opponent needs to deal with. Dynamiscus gives you that ability to banish and discard as part of an effect, so it will trigger the Darkworlds as well, meaning that if you were to activate it during your opponent's turn, you can then get a banish plus a Snow Search or a Rainbow Search or anything like that. Brainwashing, the whole idea about this is you need to maintain your hand advantage, because it has a really weird requirement. So when your opponent activates a monster effect, if you have 3 or more cards, you need to have, so in order to trigger this and get the maximum value, you need to have 3 or more cards in your hand, and you need to have a Darkworld on the board that you can bounce back to your hand in order to then activate this to discard it. So that's why by not having a normal summon, it's not the end of the world. Because if you've got Brainwashing plus 4 more cards in your hand, and you go, you know what, okay, I'm just going to normal summon a Snow, you're kind of telegraphing that you've got a Brainwashing, but you're setting it up as well. It can be very, very tricky, but it does consistently give you that second effect off of all your Darkworlds, which can be very important. Punishment is a nice little counter trap, but to be honest, if you were to cut it, I would probably cut it down for a 3rd Brainwashing if you want to go down this version. Like I said, this version, in my opinion, isn't the most optimal way to do it. Like, if Brainwashing was 2 or more cards, or heck, what Brainwashing should have been is Brainwashing should have just been when your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a Darkworld, return it to the hand, and then it becomes a discard. Like, that would have been godly ideal. The extra deck, do not take too much into this. Your extra deck can be anything you want. So the only thing that is staple, in my opinion, of the extra deck is, of course, a double Grapha and a Daguerres. Now, to make your Daguerres even more consistent, if you want to, you're going to be needing to look into playing Beige. Now, obviously, with this one at the moment, you've only got double Snows and Gentas that can summon it. So you'd be like, special summon a Genta, normal summon a Snow. But it is just another card that helps you consistently discard your cards. And that's something that this deck does lack. The rest of the other stuff is all entirely up to you on how you want to play it. So, like, these have all been shown in my previous extra decks anyway. So your Abyss Dwellers, your Baguskas, IPs, your Unicorns, your Appaloozas, Skull Dreads, Atlantis with the Muckraker loop combo, Cross Sheep to help instigate your rank 4 plays as well, Underworld Goddess, BLS, and Akashic. Now, none of these are absolute staples. You can change these to whatever you want them to be. Like I said, the only staples that I would say for this particular deck is those 3 up there, plus your Muckraker. And then if you do have a Zelantis, it's definitely worth putting in here, just because the board wipe combo between these 2 is absolutely insane. So for those of you that don't know this yet, I've pretty much mentioned it in all my profiles that these involve. The way it works is you summon out Zelantis, you summon out the Muckraker, use Muckraker's effect to lock you into Fiends, and then you use Zelantis' effect to banish the board. And because you're locked into Fiends and it's you that is summoning back the monsters from your opponent's banish zone to the board, you can't summon them back because you're locked into Fiends. So unless they're Fiends, you can't bring them back. And chances are your opponent is not playing a Fiend deck, so you're good to rock and roll. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, is it. A short, sweet, simple video just trying to show you the differences between this particular version of the deck and the, I would say, more consistently competitive versions of the deck, but it's still kind of cool to play some of the originals in the form of Rainbow. It's nice to kind of give Pile a run out as well, just to kind of change it up, and that's where you want to utilise Brainwashing a heck of a lot more. But for now, I hope you found this interesting. I hope you found it informative as well, and be able to kind of make your own adaptations if you are set on playing Darkworlds pure and kind of working from there. Like I said at the start, if you want to see more Darkworld content, and by all means, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe, because without you supporting this type of content, I will not be able to continue to do this type of content, and I'll have to be changing it up. But as absolutely always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.